Welcome back to the Inner Circle Show. In today's episode, we will discuss Tesla's FSD technology in China, the progress and what this means. We'll also talk about a new Tesla fly-in car. Yes, you heard me right. And Palantir's mixed reality capabilities and much, much more. But before we get into all of that, don't forget to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel and turn your notifications on so you do not miss an upload Monday through Friday. We've been hearing a lot about Tesla's full self-driving technology recently, how good it's getting, how safe it is, the upcoming rollout of a robo-taxi fleet, which of course harnesses this FSD technology, and we're just hearing about all the iterations it's undergoing. But we've also had some very interesting news about FSD in China. So let's just rewind quickly. In late April, Elon flew to China and met with a Chinese politician, and it was said that the main focus of this conversation was FSD. Then following this visit in early May, Tesla signed a deal with Baidu, giving them access to Baidu's mapping and data services, which is of course one of the really significant regulatory milestones for Tesla to overcome in China. Now we've had the information, just came out a few days ago, saying that Tesla has now been given approval to test their most advanced autonomous driving technology on selected streets in Shanghai. Initial testing will apparently involve about 10 vehicles, like I said, in selected streets within Shanghai, but there's already talks of expansion of this testing into other cities, one of them being Hangzhou. I don't really know if I've pronounced that right. So now let's talk about why this is actually really good news and what this could mean for Tesla in the future and us Tesla shareholders. So firstly, this is showing anticipated market expansion. Getting approval to test FSD in China shows that Tesla and probably the Chinese government are expecting to roll out Tesla's FSD in this market in the upcoming few months, few years, who knows the timeline. And this is a big, big market. I think people underappreciate this. In fact, China is the biggest EV market in the world. And it's very clear that China are very open-minded and actually they really want to be one of the first, if not the first place to actually have autonomous vehicles. They are trying to stay ahead of the game. And as part of this, they have been actively fostering the development and integration of this technology. And also, I believe their government is in full support of this, which, this whole argument of how supportive the US government is towards Tesla versus other governments around the world that are showing them perhaps more support. And alongside the market expansion, this also means a big new revenue stream for Tesla. And in fact, Bank of America are saying that if Tesla receives approval for its FSD system in China, it could contribute $2.3 billion to Tesla's annual earnings by 2030. And as also noted by Bank of America, if Tesla releases FSD as a $99 service in China, and if a quarter of the estimated 1.6 million Tesla drivers in the country subscribe to the FSD technology, it could provide Tesla with $500 million in annual revenue. The point is, once this SaaS revenue stream, SaaS standing for software as a service, which has much, much higher margins, gets out to the rest of the world, the numbers start getting very, very interesting. And like I just said, really, China is a very, very important market. It's the biggest EV market in the world, but not only that, but it's also Tesla's second largest market. But we do have one issue, one potential hurdle to consider, like with everything. And that is that each road sets around the world are different. The roads in Europe are very, very different to the roads in the US. The roads in China are very, very different to both of them. So to train FSD to work in China, you need data from China to train the neural networks. You need local data. And that's a tough issue because there's likely to be some restrictions of the data sharing from the Chinese government. And this testing and potential rollout of FSD in China also helps provide credibility for the technology. If it's only being tested and rolled out in the US market, people might not really understand how one day there could be a robo-taxi fleet. And then they might not really understand how that could add a lot to Tesla's valuation. But now we are seeing proof and the numbers are becoming more and more real as we see that this could be a global thing. And I think the fact that China are actually interested and want Tesla's FSD technology in their country tells us that Tesla actually has the competitive advantage and is ahead towards the race for autonomous vehicles. Then we have to ask ourselves, will Tesla potentially actually release a robo-taxi fleet within China before they do in the US? People are a little bit divided as to whether the US will come first or the Chinese market will come first. Let me know what you think in the comments below. In other Tesla news, I recently saw this Eich post, which has triggered me down a rabbit hole of wondering what on earth is happening. So I saw here that Elon responded to somebody saying the new Tesla Roadster can fly. And then I posted saying, guys, can someone help my small brain here? Do we think this just means that Roadster is really fast, or are we actually thinking Back to the Future type craziness? So the original Tesla Roadster was launched in 2008 and it was Tesla's first production car, and it was actually in the Tesla Master Plan 1. But now we are expecting a second generation of this vehicle to be shown later this year and maybe going into production next year. It has been spoken about for a while actually, and it seems to get pushed back. It doesn't really have seemed to have been a priority, maybe up until this point. Maybe we should expect to hear about it on the 8th of the 8th. Who knows? That may be one of the vehicles that they're going to unveil. Some people think it is. Some people think that actually it won't be a Roadster and it will instead be a van that can carry between 8 and 10 people. Now, I'm not really into sports cars myself, so all the specs sometimes go a little bit over my head, but I do know that it's meant to be in collaboration with SpaceX. And it's meant to be able to go from 0 miles per hour to 60 miles per hour in under 1 second, which will make it one of the fastest production cars ever made. So the fact that the Roadster is a collaboration between Tesla and SpaceX kind of hints to us that there will be some rocket-like features in there, maybe some rocket thrusters. So with regard to what Elon is saying about how the new Roadster will be able to fly, we already know from what he said that he doesn't really see this as a quote-unquote car in the traditional sense. But does he mean that, number one, this will be a literal flying car? That would be crazy. I don't think that's the case. Number two, it has hovering capabilities. This is what a lot of people responded to me on X and actually thought it was going to be, meaning that momentarily it will lift from the ground. So technically it will fly due to the SpaceX thrusters that could be on it, but it won't be flying for very long. It will just momentarily hover perhaps. Or the third outcome that I'm thinking is that it's just going to have super, super fast acceleration. And that's what he means when he says it will fly. It will just go really, really fast, but it will be on the ground. So do let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. The AI Expo for National Competitiveness took part last month on the 7th of May to the 8th of May, and this event aimed to showcase the latest advancements in artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies. And as part of this, we got an insight into what a news anchor had to say when she got to experience Palantir's mixed reality immersive command control ICU technology. And this is the first Palantir ontology-powered mixed reality application. So let's have a look at her experience.
Even though Palantir creates software for many different types of industries, defense was on display at the AI Expo in DC.
We've partnered with Hyundai to deliver a USV, unmanned surface vessel. The idea being is that naval scale and being able to deliver capabilities at sea to defend maritime assets is critical to maintaining, global peace and democracy.
So just to quickly interrupt there, this is what they are speaking about. So we learned this a while ago, back in April, earlier this year. But Hyundai, however you want to say it, and Palantir team up for unmanned surface vehicle. So let's just recap so we know what they're talking about. So Hyundai, a South Korean shipbuilding and machinery conglomerate, that's always a hard word to say, joined hands with the US artificial intelligence defense contractor Palantir Technologies for the development of an unmanned surface vehicle, USV, a game changer in future naval warfare to improve its competitiveness in the special ship business. The vessel operating on the surface of the water without a crew, that's the important thing, there's no crew members, which will be way more safe because if anything does happen to that vehicle, no one loses their life, is regarded as vital to various operations such as sea mine search and removal, as well as in combat replacing manned ships.
Joey Finnell, a deployment strategist with Palantir Technologies, showed me a mixed reality program called Immersive Command Control.
So that headset that you're seeing there is not owned by Palantir. Palantir do not own the hardware. They just have the software that goes with that hardware. And I believe that the software that Palantir have is compatible with many different headsets, whether it's Apple's Vision Pro, Meta, whatever.
If there's a mission that's happening, I might be able to watch it in real time.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
It's like being in the White House Situation Room, but virtually.
You have all of the data that's integrated that would typically be in an operations center, whether it's you're in the back of a truck or an aircraft or an abandoned subway station.
This is crazy.
So this is an airfield in the South China Sea.
This is video Palantir provided that is similar to what I was seeing in the headset. I can click on a 3D icon with a virtual laser pointer.
So I'm seeing a runway.
And get more information.
You can point and click on it. It'll tell you its call sign and basic information.
Hovering above is a jumbotron with real-time data and video. If this were a real military operation, it would even show me areas to avoid. That's the big red bubble.
Those are actually threat zones from a surface-to-air weapon system.
What you don't see here, unless you were wearing the headset, is that I can still see some of my surroundings, so I'm not getting dizzy or bumping into anyone.
Cougar 22.
Now, military operations often include video feeds, and so mission control can watch in real time. But of course, that is quite dependent, I should say, on connectivity in whatever area the mission is taking place.
That was interesting, actually, to get an insight into what someone thinks about this and what someone is reacting like to this that doesn't actually work for Palantir. And we heard there that this is a way to get an insight into the battlefield from many different locations without actually having to be on the battlefield. And that, of course, enables officers to act quickly and effectively using mission-relevant data. And we also learned there that it shows us areas, particular areas within the battlefield that people should avoid, which is, of course, a big deal and could save many lives. Now, the most obvious use case for this, as we're seeing, is defense. That makes the most sense. That is where the biggest impact can be had, I think, and the biggest competitiveness can be given. But we have seen some commercial use cases with the IC2 technology as well. I forgot the name of the company, but the one that's fixing the machines in real time. But yeah, let me know what sectors you think that this is going to be really useful in the comments below. The first piece of other market news in today's episode is that apparently Apple are stopping working on their Vision Pro 2 headset due to slow sales. The first headset came out earlier this year, and I remember there being a lot of excitement about it initially, and a lot of people were making videos online showing their experience of it, but that sort of happened and then it kind of died out, and I didn't really hear much about it after that point. And it was pretty expensive too. I think they started at about $3,500. But apparently Apple are now instead focusing on ways they can actually reduce the cost of components so that hopefully at the back end of 2025, they can ship a much cheaper model, because $3,500 starting price rules out quite a lot of people. And I guess the reason that this is making the rounds is because of this whole narrative at the moment that Apple is a little bit behind in terms of innovation. They're not really innovating in the ways they did back in the day, and they haven't really been able to seemingly find the next new product of theirs. Instead, they are just making iterations on their already existing products, and I think people are getting a little bit worried about that. And of course, this comes after the news that we had earlier this year, whereby we learned that they were cancelling their car project that they were working on. That was going to be an autonomous EV, I believe. And there were some other projects as well that I think they've cancelled since, but I can't remember them off the top of my head. But yeah, people seem quite divided on Apple now. Let me know what you think about Apple as an investment, as a company, in the comments below. In more news local to me, the UK inflation is now at the lowest levels it has been in almost 3 years, according to the data that's coming out. Whether or not this is the most true, accurate data or not, make your own decision. But the report says that the UK inflation is now rising at its slowest pace since July 2021. And it is also lower than the Eurozone and the US, where rates were 2.6% and 3.3% in May. At the moment, deflation doesn't seem to look like a big threat because the price of goods and services are not falling dramatically. I think actually they are still increasing, but they are just rising now more slowly than they were before. But I did see this in the report that was quite interesting. It shows us how the cost of food has been in the UK since 2020. So a whole chicken in January 2020 was £4.08 on average. May 2024, £5.76. So that has gone right up. Cheddar cheese, you can see here a big increase. Sliced white bread again up, and semi-skimmed milk up again. So why am I saying all this? It's because we know that inflation does impact the stock market, so it is worth paying attention to. On the screen now are the topics we will talk about exclusively on the Vault this week. And if you're a Vault member, I'm going to continue this episode and talk more about Tesla today. If you're not a Vault member, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in Monday's episode. If you want to watch these episodes ad-free, get exclusive and extended content and a bunch of other perks, become an insider of the Inner Circle Vault. Link in the description.